Welcome to this week's edition of the Belau Report. I'm Jane Belau, and our guest this week is from the Rochester City Council, Shaun Palmer, and we welcome you back.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
And you're wearing the right colors today?
Yes, I am. I'm wearing my summer outfit for the City Council.
Okay. All right. Now, you do have an opponent in your ward, and we will try and interview her too to give her an equal opportunity.
Great.
But what does the council need right now?
We need a good goal. We need right now we have a kind of a general goal of housing, but I think we need to be more strategic in our goal and what we're trying to do. Housing costs have risen throughout the United States, but they're rising heavy in Rochester. We used to be about 40% less in cost for an average home from the cities to here, and we're now about 10%. And so that's providing opportunities for the outlying areas to grow at the detriment of Rochester. We used to be a 10-year average 500 houses, single-family houses being built each year. We're down to about 200. And since the recession in 2008, we had a deficit and deficit and deficit, and we're about 3,000 single-family dwellings that were short. We're doing a good job of providing some apartments. We're doing a good job of workforce housing, but we need all types, is what the professionals tell us. We need all kinds. And so our senior housing, somebody who's 65 doesn't want to live in that 4-bedroom, 2-story anymore. They'd like to move. We need to find something or a place for them to go so it opens up that house.
Now, the Unified Development Code.
Correct.
What do you like about it, and what do you not like about it?
I like most everything in it, and one of the things I pushed for was to get smaller lot sizes, to give that availability.
I know you did.
And it's 3,000 square feet versus 6,000 square feet. It takes the setbacks and puts them lower, so our land costs, we can get more houses on a parcel of land. That'll give that opportunity for some type of people to want to live there. It should cut the cost by quite a bit, but yet we'll still have our R1, we'll still have our single family 6,000 square foot lot. We're also working on auxiliary dwelling units. We've had a little problem with that, and it's, I always call it a romantic idea that I'm going to put an apartment in my backyard and I'll live there, or my parents or my sons will live there, and we'll share the same parcel of property. The problem with it is we have some rules with utilities that make the sewer and water wanting to run it out to the city, out to the street, which costs about 30 grand. We like to work around and keep safety as #1 issue, but run that to the house and cut that cost down. And it's an interesting concept. We just need a little bit more density. That's what we're trying to achieve with it.
When you say a little more density, how do you mean?
Adding more units in an area. We have R2X zoning. We put in certain areas in Rochester, and one of my areas is in Goose Egg Park. If you took 1 or 2 houses and put up an apartment building of 8 or 9, that gives you more density so buses can breathe there. The Goose Lake Park neighborhood is an example. Kusky Park neighborhood is an example of I can live there and not have to own a car, and I can walk to work, I can walk to the grocery store, and that adds that ability to do that. It changes the character of your neighborhoods, but it adds that density that I think what the professionals tell us that we need.
That's sort of happening in St. Mary's area now, isn't it?
It is, and there's kind of the crux of the problem is that you butt up against old and new, and this is my neighborhood. And so as a city council member, probably the biggest word I use is balance. How do you balance the needs of this and balance the needs here? You look at, to me, Summit Avenue up in St. Paul is a gorgeous area, but also to me, Pill Hill is a beautiful area, and we need to keep that as that type of historic neighborhood.
And how can you do that? By exemption?
You can, you can say this area here is historic, and we're going to keep it historic, and it's a neighborhood that's historic. When they start picking off 1 house and 2 houses, and pretty soon you get to, well, everything is going to be new. In our downtown, I'm proud of our downtown. Mayo Clinic's the leader, obviously, downtown. But we have beautiful buildings. And, there's some buildings that are historic. You know, to me, the old public library, the Mitchell Center, I remember going in there as a kid and going to the library there, and I did an inspection there about 10 years ago, and the memories just came back to you as you go down the marble stairs to the fireplace, and the smell and the building itself was historic to me. You know, you look at the Plummer Building, that's another historic building. Chateau Theater is another historic building that we have. Just because it's old doesn't make it historic, you know, but we've done probably a disservice in Rochester in some of the buildings we have torn down. I think you probably remember the old post office downtown and the mural that was there, and that was a neat, you know, WPA project that got torn down. But with growth and historic, and how again, that word balance comes into play.
And what will be the biggest change with the unified development?
It's going to be a little more streamlined. It's also going to take a lot of the uncertainty for developers out. And so about 80% of the decisions will be made by the staff. And so what the city council will say is we allow A, B, C, and D. And if the plans show A, B, C, and D, then the staff can approve it. It won't have to go to a public hearing. It won't have to go to the city council. And when it does that, going to city council, it delays it, makes it a longer process, and also has uncertainty into it. In any time you have a market that has uncertainty, people price that way. And so it should keep the cost down. It should make it go faster. And if it goes faster, then supposedly they will be able to have a product that comes out quicker and as what we want.
And what will be the installation date of that unified code?
Well, just to be clear, I'm one of 7. And so, you know, my opinion is not worth a lot. But our hope is that on July we'll have the UDC in. And then once it's adopted, then it's about a 6-month period to get all the behind the works and all the rules and things. So I would say January 1, you'd see buildings being built to it.
Okay. All right. And there's nothing you don't like about it?
No, I think it's different, you know, and I think that's what people get a rub on, is that it's different. But I look at it from a development perspective. I've had a lot of experience in the construction industry, but I also look at it from a neighborhood perspective and how do we protect our neighbors. So again, that balance is important there.
Do you have a special area for R1?
Yes, yes. You can still have R1, you can have R2, and things will come in as an R2, but you can make them an R1, and that's just the standard of what we do.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
We'll keep single-family dwellings.
All right. Of the issues that you dealt with last night at council, what's the biggest one?
Well, the biggest one is BRT, the Bus Rapid Transit. And we're coming up with an agreement with Mayo Clinic. We're close to having that agreement. And again, that's the bus line that's going to run from the west parking lot at Mayo Clinic through downtown Rochester into the Fullerton lot and then go back. And it's going to be a bus that you don't pay at the bus. You get on the bus, you get off the bus. The platform's the same size. It's rapid. It's going to be, I believe, every 5 minutes during rush hour. It will move a lot of people. Right now, our bus service is about 95% Mayo Clinic employees, and about be the same. And Mayo will be paying about 95% of the operating cost, if not more, to run these buses.
And will they have to be identified as Mayo workers?
No. That they haven't determined yet. We're not determined yet if we're going to have fares or not. There's some part of the federal government. The meeting we had last night, what we had to listen to is, we changed the route a little bit, and then the costs have gone up quite a bit. We had to acknowledge that. But I think the ridership experience is good, and I think that's what we're looking for. So these bus stops that you'll be sitting at will be heated or cooled. They'll be comfortable. They'll be someplace that, you know, you want to use the bus, and I think that's going to be, it's dependable. I think that those are things that are going to drive ridership.
And what kind of buses?
I don't know. I'm assuming they're going to try and get some electric buses. I'm not particularly sure we've got that solved in Minnesota weather, whether or not buses that are electric are going to work.
I'm not sure either.
Duluth they didn't. St. Paul they had a little bit of a problem, but I'm being told by the people who are pushing it that, oh no, it's the way to go. So we'll see.
All right, and when's your deadline for starting that?
We have to have an application in by the 1st of August, and so we can't have that in until we have our negotiation with Mayo, and they've been a very good partner on this, and they have their needs that they need to protect, and we have our citizens' needs that we need to protect, and how do you work that together? So it's always been a good partnership, and it will continue.
And the buildings, the terminal buildings, when will they start?
If I remember correctly, it's going to be 2026 when we have this up and running, and so that it delayed it for 1 year, but 2026, and you'll probably see them going up in about 2025. We have some land acquisitions to do and some technical parts to do, and it'll be right around that 2024 area.
When I asked what kind of information the council members should have, or the candidates for council jobs, that's what I'm talking about now. Okay. There are many more projects like the Manor building that the council debated and decided not to honor the appeal. And it requires a knowledge of purchasing and construction, and budgeting, and that I think that we haven't seen before.
What we tell our state legislative people is, as a city council member of Rochester, we have the international airport, we have a bus service, we have a sewer plant, we have an electrical plant, we have a library, we have planning and zoning. In Minneapolis and St. Paul, they have the Met Council, or they have the MAC, the Airport Commission, that does all that for them. So as a council member for Rochester, these are a lot of different things that come to your plate. And as you're talking about, is zoning is probably one of the bigger issues. A piece of land is coming into Rochester, a developer has this idea, and neighbors don't want that in there, and what's protecting them from that, and understanding that. Streets, is a huge issue. How do we fund our streets? Where are they going to go? A year ago, it was speed limits. We dropped our speed limit to 25 miles an hour, and there's a lot of debate whether or not that's good or bad. I voted for it for one reason, is that our streets then are designed to 25 miles an hour, and as they tell you in street design, if I design it to be slower, you'll move slower, and a perception, and that should slow people down. Me putting a sign up at, whatever, people don't pay attention to that. It's what they perceive as safety. I could put a policeman in every corner and still have speeders and people running through stoplights and signs, but design helps those things.
Okay. How fast is our city growing?
Good. We're growing at a good pace. I think what did I read? 119,000 people. When I was born, there was 25,000 people in Rochester. We had a great growth in the 60s with IBM being here. We are the third largest city in Minnesota. We have the largest private employer in the state. We have people who work for Mayo Clinic from 82 of the 87 counties in Minnesota. Oh. So we're the driver of the Minnesota, and that's one of the reasons we've got money from the state of Minnesota, for the DMC, was to invest in our infrastructure. It's an investment from the state of Minnesota to help pay for infrastructure, sewer, water, that kind of stuff that you don't see. And then like Discovery Walk, 75% of the cost of Discovery Walk is underneath the ground. It's the new sewer lines and the water lines and rebuilding those roads. And as you walk down the walkway, you're going to see beautiful artwork. You're going to see a want to walk down that. So then you're going to go down to Soldiers Field, and then we'll have Soldiers Field and invite you from Mayo Clinic to take that journey down there and walk down there.
And the infrastructure is covered under DMC?
Correct. Yes. So that's one of the big investments that they're supposed to be doing.
Discovery Walk, and where exactly will that be?
That is on 2nd Avenue. That is between the Franklin and the Hilton, and it goes down past the KRLC radio, station, and then it heads down to the Sinclair station on 6th Street, and that's where it ends. Those are the current buildings that are there. So not a lot of commercial. Discovery Walk is in, or Discovery Square 1, Discovery Square 2 is in there, and now they're going to have Discovery 3. These are buildings that are being used for research and development and bringing other companies into Rochester to be near Mayo and do research with Mayo Clinic.
That is fascinating.
It's very fascinating.
Okay. Now, you had the appeal last night
Yes.
of the Manor project that was appealed from the zoning committee.
Yes.
And the council supported the findings of that committee, right?
That is correct. And what it is in a country called Manor at the end of 36th Avenue on the south side, there's an open field. It used to be a cornfield. And a church owned that piece of property, and a developer bought it, and they're going to put a 3-story high-rise in there. And it's going to be for workforce housing. And when they put that workforce housing in, one of the things they have is a shoreline rule, and there's Cascade Creek across the road. And so the argument was, well, you're building in the shoreline, you can't do that. And there's some argument back and forth on that. But when it came down to it, we're acting in a judicial setting, and I have to follow the rules. And if I don't follow the rules, then we set the city up for some liability. And they have to come back with a water plan, stormwater management plan to handle their water on their site. So that's kind of the basic rule nowadays, is that my parcel of property can't release any more water than before the development. And so, the neighbors are upset with that, and I understand that, and they appealed that, and they may sue us. I mean, that's kind of their right to do that, not obligation. They don't have to sue us. But it's an obligation, that they can do if they need to.
Okay. And last night they announced that the bridge in Northwest Rochester.
Elton Hills Bridge it was deemed insufficient. We put some barriers on it, and we got a contract on it. We got the state and the feds to pay some money on it. We tore it down last fall, and it will be up. Originally, we thought the first couple weeks of July, then it was going to be the middle of July. Now we pretty sure it's going to be the first week of August. The developer or the contractor is saying that they ran into some difficulties and needed a delay. We have a contract that says, well, if you delay it, we're going to get some cash back from you because you're hurting the city of Rochester. We have to get it done in August for the simple fact that we have Kellogg Junior High, and that's a huge road to go through. It was hard last year when we had Elton Hills Bridge and North Broadway being done at the same time. But that was just a timing from a federal grant money. It's not what we wanted to do, but it's something we had to do.
Okay. And the third issue was the pool openings and the delay for the one pool because of vandalism.
Yeah, and we have 2 outdoor pools. We were talking earlier that Rochester's only had 2 outdoor pools since 1959, since the year I was born. And we've never added another one. Think how much Rochester's grown. But the pipes underneath Silver Lake Pool are old, and we don't know how much longer they're going to be there, so we want to make sure we get that repaired. But we had vandals take a brick and bash in a screen over a drain. So it's going to take us a couple weeks to get a new one. Everything takes time.
But it'll be okay.
It should be okay. I mean, it's hard to guarantee a pool that's that old and cast iron pipes, and what we like to do, and there's a discrepancy between what the park department wants and what the citizens want, and the citizens want a pool, and the park department would like to see a splash pad put in there, and you can't teach swimming there, and you can't swim laps there, and we're not talking a huge pool, we're talking a good teaching pool, and I think hopefully we'll get that switched around. The mayor is very supportive. Mayor Norton, very supportive of the pool. I'm very supportive of having a pool. So we'll have to wait and see how we can convince everybody else of that.
Okay, let's talk about Soldiers Field Park.
Yes.
You have some drawings.
Yes.
That have 3 options.
Yes.
19-hole golf course, 9-hole golf course and no golf.
Yes.
Who's going to make the decision?
Well, it's going to be today, which is Tuesday. It's going to be at the park board meeting at 4:30. Last night we had a group of golfers there, men and women leagues and everybody else, saying what important Soldiers Field Golf Course is. It's flat. It's 18 holes. It's been there since 1932. It doesn't compete with any of the other golf courses in the area. It has a unique that it's flat. And so a lot of people use that golf course. It's the most used golf course. But we have some people who, see it as downtown, an opportunity to do something else that they think would be a vision that's different. I'm not a golfer. I run by it. I'd love to see the golf. I love to see tennis down there. We have a lot of, I'm going to use the word, a lot of money to invest at Silver Lake. We got a $5 million grant from the federal government, and we have $7 million from referendum dollars, and then DMC has money in there. So how do we redo that pool? We're going to redo that pool because it's leaking. It's 25 years old, and that one's leaking and needs to be rebuilt. And then how do we renegotiate what we're doing down there? 3 years ago, we fought them on the track. They wanted to take the track out, and we have a state-of-the-art, good gravel track that's all season and works really well for us now.
See, that's what I mean about the issues, varied issues that the city council is dealing with now.
Yes.
And is the election of the park board an option?
It's not right now. We have 3 charter boards. Park board, you were on the charter commission. So we have the charter commission that oversees basically the park board, the library board, and the RPU board. And basically, I always tell everybody, I give them money and they spend it, and they ask for more money and we give them a little bit more money. But we don't have a lot of control over the parks. I'd like to see it change a little bit. We had a charter commission meeting that when we first had the new people elected, and the proposal was that we would reflect actual what we're doing, where the department heads reporting to the city administrator. And that got knocked down 6-1. I lost on that one. But that would reflect really what we do. The library director should get hired and supervised by the city administrator.
Right.
So.
And what about the park board?
The park board, same thing. The park board is a little bit more unique because it has individuals by ward that are elected, not elected, but appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. And mine is Dick Dale. He's phenomenally good. He's with the Silver Lake Friends. He serves very well for us. He's a retired detective from Rochester. But he's my park board representative that I talk to almost twice a week on different issues for parks, and we get along quite well.
Now, our city sales tax is still in the limbo of will there be a special session of the legislature or won't there? And what happens if there is no special session?
Well, we have one more year before it runs out, but I have to thank Carla Nelson, our senator. She worked really hard on the tax committee, and she got our sales tax bundled. We have 5 items in there, all voted at one time. She held us even or hold harmless on the LGA, so our LGA won't go down. So she did a very good job for Rochester as far as investing in Rochester. And we hope that there's going to be a special session so that gets pushed through, because the tax committee, both the Democrats and the Republicans pretty much agreed on well, they did agree, they did sign on it. And so we're waiting to find out. I am an optimistic person, and I believe that we're going to get a special session, and everybody's going to do what's best for the citizens of Rochester and Minnesota, and work with us for helping out our residents.
Senator Nelson was our guest last week, and she went into the details of what happened to her bill and the tax relief, and it would be nice to see that implemented.
About 40% of our sales tax is paid for outside people in Rochester. And there's 5 projects that we have. We have 4, and then we added 1. The number one is flood control, to refund that, put money back into that account. Number 2 is housing. Number 3 is roads. Number 4 is a great sports facility, something regional that people would be attracted to come to Rochester. And the 5th one, which I like, is called the Good Neighbor Policy. It's an investment policy, and we help out all our neighbors and our surrounding. And that was a political move, but you know, you have to play politics, and you know, and we do that.
Well, we will hope that there will be a special session.
I hope so too.
Yep. All right. Biggest issue facing the council going forward?
We have budget coming up, and you know, we're doing a 2-year budget cycle. What do we do for funding for police and fire? And you know, that's about 65% of our budget is for public safety, and keeping the tax levy at a certain level. We held it flat at 0 for COVID, and that's still kind of biting us, but we really didn't have it. We had to do that. So, you know, where do we set with that? Those investments that we make, you know, in Rochester, we've made a great investment in our public safety. We have a great fire department. We have a great police department. And we're always moving ahead. And some of the things that other communities are trying to do, we've already done. Austin didn't have cameras for their policemen, and we do. And we've had that for a long period of time, and that helps out everybody. And I think that that's an investment that we made. We've had social workers embedded. Some counties worked well with us on that, and that has paid some dividends for the police. So what the police chief calls it, I think, is Century 21 policing. Everything that they've suggested, we've either have done. Tomorrow night, we're having at Cook Park music in the ward. It's at 5:30 to 6:30, and then 6:30 to 7:30. We have music in the wards. We also have Safe City nights that the police department puts on. And that's getting people to see our policemen as human beings, and for our policemen to see our neighbors as human beings. It's that mutual respect. Once you lose that, we have problems. In Rochester, we've worked very, very hard to keep that respect among everybody.
And how about our police force? I know they were looking for candidates.
Yes.
Good candidates.
Yes.
And did they find them?
They did. They told us last night that they're going to be fully staffed. We had a group come down, and they did a seminar for an hour and a half. The American Experiment people did, and it was interesting listening to the sheriff and to the police chief saying, you know, when they were hired, there was 125 people who applied, and the last one they had maybe 10. Yeah. And you know, then 2 of them got hired by another community because, you know, and I'm proud of the police chief. We have a very good police chief, and he's got our support. But you know, we're not hiring somebody just to hire somebody. If they don't meet our standard and our quality of person that we want, then we would rather go without than to put somebody that's not our quality standard person. So we're proud of that.
I've asked you about everything except school safety, and we'll have to check with the school board on
Yes.
that. But, okay, and the budget you regard as the biggest issue that's going to face us?
That's the biggest issue we always have, and it's going to be another one. You know, what matters gets funded, and so, you know, if you don't fund it, it doesn't really matter. You know, and you can say, oh, I'm for this, I'm for that, but if you don't put your money where your mouth is, you know, you're just kind of just blowing hot air. And so that to me is important.
Yeah,
So.
and people understand about the pandemic and what it did to our community and how they're trying to fight back. And the Chateau Theater?
We have Threshold Arts is going to take that over for the 3 years, and they're going to try and get that implemented, and it'd probably be a little bit easier, you know, not having COVID and not having a construction site on your front door. So we're excited to see that being. We need to have a long-range plan. We don't have one. There's a group that was together that had one that's kind of fallen apart. Whether or not we do that or not, I don't know. But we need to move that ahead. We've owned it for 7 years, and
Yeah.
so we need to move ahead on that.
It'll look very different in 5 years.
Yes.
Everything will. Thank you very much for your service.
Well, thank you for
and
yours.
thank you for your interview. As we appreciate the fact that you bring it all home to us and language we understand, and we wish you luck.
I appreciate you doing the show.
Shaun Palmer from the 5th District.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, our viewers, for your interest in Rochester, the city, the area, the state, the nation, and the world. And we'll be back next week, same time, same channel. In the meantime, have a very good week. Have a very good night.